will chat to you about my time with the Kentish Glory. The Kentish Glory and how I managed to get it onto primetime TV this year on Springwatch. I'm so lucky to live in an area where the Kentish Glory Moth can be found. It is such a beautiful moth. I'm also very fond of it, as it was my first real introduction to the world of moths. Like everyone, I've always found butterflies amazing, and the whole process of complete metamorphism mind-blowing. But I had no idea that the world of moths was thousands of times larger, and what some might say, way cooler. Don't get me wrong, I still love butterflies, but moths rock. I met the KG as one of my first rare invertebrates in the Cairngorm surveying assignments, where my dad and I were given a pheromone trap to record their presence in some new areas in the Cairngorms. For those who don't know what the Rare Invertebrates in the Cairngorms project is, it's a 3.5-year funded project looking for and protecting 6 of the rarest invertebrates in the Cairngorms. I have some leaflets with me if you want more info. Give me a second. So, off we headed into the great unknown. Well, actually not so unknown, as we headed down a well-trodden track about 300 metres from the Rothiemurkes Visitor Centre, just outside from Aviemore. On identifying a suitable habitat within our allocated square, we set up the pheromone trap, and sat and waited. This emulates the pheromones that the female would produce, which the males pick up using their fluffy antennae and fly towards us in the hope of meeting the lady moth in their dreams. Unfortunately for them, it's as we find, and a bottle filled with man-made pheromones. In this picture, if you look closely, you can see where the female emits the pheromones at the back of her abdomen. The male KG can sense these pheromones from up to a kilometre away. There's been mixed success with the man-made pheromones, and each year a new version is released, with this year some testing conducted to try and figure out which strain works the best. A little about the KG's habitat. The KG requires a very specific habitat, that being silver birch trees which are 6 feet tall and under, which we believe is due to the fact that trees of this size are less impacted by the wind. This specialist moth has been having a hard time recently, primarily due to environment destruction and fragmentation, making the survey work super important. In fact, we now know that much of their suitable habitat has become secluded islands or just been destroyed. As I said before, it's not any old birch forest. They prefer silver birch, which tends to grow on drier land, unlike its cousin the downy birch, which likes wet boggy soils. Something that is not ideal for when the KG is pupating in the soil around the trees. Due to the need for trees 6 feet and under, well-managed forestry, or surprisingly, areas which undergo some grazing seem to be the ideal environments. This grazing helps keep the trees to the ideal size, and the ground below tends to be clear due to the movement of the cattle or deer. Another thing that helps the caterpillar to find its ideal pupation location. That's quite hard to say. Although the KG can be found during the day, it can also be trapped at night using light traps. So when we heard about someone who had a night of trapping planned, we just had to go along and help. And this is when we first met Tom Prescott. That night, with a load of carefully positioned traps, we managed to catch 7 males and 1 female KG, along with a load of other moths, including a beautiful emperor, a load of prominence, which is one of my other favourites. So far, this project has been super successful. And last year, there were a total of 80 new kilometre squares identified that had KG present. And this year, there's been a load more new locations found. All of this work, much of which is carried out by volunteers, is helping us to better understand things, like the moth distribution, its preferred habitat, the weather condition it prefers, and also aiding conversations with landowners on how to manage the land better in the areas that it has been found. This year I was lucky enough to appear twice on Springwatch, one of those times being a story about the Kentish Glory, giving this beautiful and naturally scarce moth some well-deserved TV time. I was informed by the producers shortly after the show that they had 2 million viewers that night. So that's 2 million more people that now know about the KG and its importance. I do have a copy of the segment with me on a laptop if you wish to see it, so grab me over lunchtime. If we ask nicely, they may even allow us to play it in here. The life cycle of the Kentish Glory is similar to many other moths out there. It emerges as an adult early in the year around late April. And this year, my dad and I were the first of the volunteers to find it in the Aviemore area, which was on the 17th of April. It is on the wing for up to around 2 months, where its sole purpose is to mate, as it has no mouthparts and can't eat. How boring must that be? The eggs are initially custard yellow, turning purple in colour in a few days to match the colour of the silver birch branches that they are laid on. The caterpillars typically appear from June to September before overwintering for sometimes up to 2 years. This, along with many other large moths, are very sensitive to climate change. Another reason to monitor for them.